Stella sat on the bus watching the city pass by. The morning light spilled through the windows, casting a warm glow on her face. She loved this time of day. It felt peaceful. But today was different. She felt a knot in her stomach. As she looked out, her mind raced with thoughts about her school and the people in it. Why do some people get treated differently? She wondered. Stella had seen how some of her friends were not included in class activities. It bothered her deeply. She thought about Mia, a girl in her class. Mia often sat alone at lunch. Other kids would whisper and laugh instead of inviting her to join. It isn't fair, Stella thought. Why can't everyone be kind? As the bus made its way to school, Stella remembered a time when she felt left out. She had just moved to the neighborhood last year. It was hard to make friends. She remembered sitting alone on the playground for days. One day Emma, a girl with bright eyes, came up to her. "Do you want to play?" Emma asked with a smile. That simple act changed everything for Stella. It was a moment of kindness that made her feel welcome. She wanted to give that feeling to someone else. Stella pulled her backpack closer. Inside, she had a book about kindness. It talked about how a little act could change someone's day. I should do something for Mia, she thought. Maybe I can invite her to sit with me at lunch. But something held her back. What if Mia said no? What if her friends laughed? Stella took a deep breath and tried to calm her racing heart. She wanted to help but felt scared. When the bus stopped, Stella stepped out. The school building loomed in front of her. It seemed big and imposing. Inside, the hallways were loud. Students rushed by, talking and laughing with their friends. Stella walked slowly, looking for a sign that everything would be okay. She noticed Mia at the far end of the hallway, sitting alone on a bench. Stella's heart ached. Why did it hurt to see Mia in that way? Maybe everyone feels lonely sometimes, Stella thought. After all, she had been lonely too. She quickly glanced at Mia again. The girl was reading a book, her face downturned. Stella remembered how kind Emma had been to her. I want to be like that, Stella whispered to herself. With renewed determination, Stella decided she would try. Even if others do not. Even if others might not approve, she thought. She wanted to be brave. I can be kind, Stella said quietly but firmly. As the bell rang, Stella knew she would have to act soon. The day stretched ahead, filled with classes and lunch. But one thing was clear. Kindness was important, and she felt ready to stand up for it, no matter the challenge. The school day began with excitement, but Stella could feel the tension in the air. As she walked to her first class, she noticed students whispering and laughing. She felt worried about Mia again. Stella wanted to make a difference, but the more she looked around, the harder it seemed. In class, Stella overheard a group of girls talking about a popular event coming up. I don't think Mia even wants to come, one of them said. Stella felt her heart sink. It was as if they did not care about how Mia felt. After class, Stella saw Mia standing alone again. She was looking at her phone, waiting for a friend who never came. Stella gathered her courage and walked over. Hi, Mia, she said softly. Mia looked up with surprise. Oh, hey, Stella, she replied, her voice quiet. Stella could see the sadness in Mia's eyes. It deepened the knot in her own stomach. I was wondering if you'd like to sit with me at lunch today, Stella offered, trying to sound upbeat. Mia hesitated. Sure, but I'm not sure it will be fun, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Just then some older students walked by. They laughed loudly, making jokes about students not included in their group. Look at that, the loners, one boy sneered, and the others echoed his words. Stella felt a heat rise in her cheeks. Why couldn't they just be kind? Mia sighed, looking defeated. See, it's better if I just stay alone, she said sadly. Stella knew that this way of thinking was a problem. No, it's not better. Everyone should be included, Stella replied firmly. But even as she spoke, doubts crept in. What if her friends felt just as the older students did? During lunch, Stella sat with her usual group. They were friendly but often unaware of others' feelings. As they laughed and talked, Stella noticed Mia sitting at the same table, alone once more. Nobody asked her to join. It didn't feel right to laugh when someone else was sad. That inner voice pushed Stella forward. I'm going to invite her, she decided. Finally, she turned to her friends. Hey, what about Mia? Shouldn't we ask her to sit with us? Her friends shrugged. I don't know, Stella. She usually doesn't come near us, one said. And she doesn't talk much anyway, another added. Their dismissive tone squeezed Stella's heart. This was why the problem persisted. It was easy for people to ignore what they did not understand. Despite the pushback from her friends, Stella felt stronger now. Everyone deserves kindness, she said with a strong voice. We should be nice to her. A quiet confidence grew in her chest. Maybe if we try, Mia will feel welcome, and she will feel happy. Even as they pressed on the issue, Stella understood those opinions came from fear and habit. We can change this, she thought. Challenges would come, but she was not afraid anymore. Ultimately, it was about creating a better world, one act of kindness at a time. Determined, Stella decided to take one more step forward. No matter what, she could make a difference today. Stella felt a rush of hope as she turned to her friends again. Let's invite Mia to sit with us, she said loudly. But instead of agreeing, her friends started to laugh. You really want us to ask her? One of them said. Don't be silly, Stella. The tone of their voices felt sharp, making the simple idea of kindness seem heavy. Stella thought about Mia again, sitting alone and looking sad. She felt the weight of her friend's words, but she pressed on. Everyone deserves a place to sit, even if they are different from us, she said, trying to sound strong. Mia is still a student here, just like us. Yet her friends shrugged off her words. They were not used to asking someone different to join in. It's just how it is, another friend argued. You can't change how people are. Those words stung Stella. It felt as if they were shutting down the very idea of kindness. She wanted to argue more, but a wave of doubt washed over her. What if her friends were right? As the days passed, Stella began noticing more situations like Mia's. In gym class, she saw splitting children into groups. Popular students included their friends, while others stood alone. It was like a pattern. The same kids got left out over and over again. This cannot be right, she thought, angry at how unfair it seemed. When she tried to talk with others about this issue, she faced more resistance. Why should we care? Some said. Everyone has a choice. They did not understand. Not everyone felt confident enough to make that choice. Stella's heart felt heavy. Some people just want to fit in, she thought as she observed her surroundings. One afternoon, Stella caught sight of Mia at the bus stop. She was reading again, lost in her own world. Stella felt a mix of sadness and anger. Why does this happen? Stella thought. Just then, she overheard a group of boys laughing behind her. Look at that girl with the big glasses, one shouted. They laughed, and the sound made Stella's stomach turn. At that moment, she realized the issue was deeper than she previously thought. It was not only about Mia but about everyone who felt left out. Misinformation clouded the situation. Some thought bullying was just teasing, but it was hurting people deeply. Not everyone had the courage to stand up and speak out against that hurt. The pressure around her felt heavier now. She saw how people justified their actions with silly jokes that were not funny at all. Stella felt as if a wall was closing in on her, making her feel helpless. If people thought this behavior was okay, how could she change anything? Even though her heart wanted to have a go at the challenge, demons of doubt whispered to her, "You cannot win this fight." But within her grew a fire. Even amidst the challenges, Stella knew she could no longer stay quiet. There has to be a way to break this cycle of hurt, she thought. Memories of how Emma had been kind to her stirred her resolve. If one act of kindness could transform her experience, perhaps she could do the same for Mia and others. With each moment of uncertainty, the tension pushed Stella to her limits, but even that could not extinguish her courage. She might face more challenges ahead, but she would not turn back now. Change required bravery, and Stella was ready to be that light for someone else, starting today. As the days went by, Stella felt the weight of her sadness growing heavier. Watching Mia sit alone day after day tugged at her heart. The laughter and jokes from students echoed in her mind, making her feel like she was drowning in silence. She knew something had to change, but she often felt scared. What if she failed? What if her friends turned against her? One day, while standing outside after school, Stella watched as a group of students gathered around Mia. They were laughing again, but this time it felt different. One boy made a mean joke about Mia's clothes, and the others joined in, their laughter ringing sharp in the air. Stella's heart raced. It struck her like a bolt of lightning. This was the moment when she could no longer stand by quietly. If she didn't act now, things might never change. Every part of her screamed to stay quiet and avoid trouble. What if my friends see me? What will they think? Stella's mind buzzed with fears. But then she remembered when Emma had helped her. It took just a small act of kindness to change everything for her. I can be like that for Mia, she thought fiercely. Suddenly, that small spark of courage turned into a blazing fire. With deep breaths, Stella stepped toward the crowd. Hey! She shouted, her voice trembling but loud. All heads turned her way. The laughter stopped as a wave of shock washed over the students. That is not funny. You shouldn't make fun of her. Stella realized she was putting herself in a position of risk. What if they threw insults back at her? What if her friends went against her? Her heart pounded loudly in her chest. For a moment, the crowd grew silent, watching her every move. A girl from her class scoffed. Why do you care, Stella? She's just weird. Stella felt heat rush to her cheeks. It was hard to be alone in her feelings. She could sense the pressure building from her peers like a heavy cloud, because everyone deserves respect. Stella replied, her voice gaining firmness. The tension was high. Some of her friends shifted uncomfortably, uncertain of what to do. You can't just let them treat her this way, Stella insisted, her hands shaking. It is wrong to hurt others for fun. We should stand together, not push someone down. She could hear whispers and side comments among the crowd, doubt clouding the air. Look at her, one student said, shaking his head. What a loser. For a brief moment, Stella regretted her choice. Was this making things worse? What if I lose my friends? What if they stop talking to me? Her thoughts spun wildly, but then Stella focused on Mia, whose face was buried in her hands. The sight broke Stella's heart. She took another step forward, ready to scream if needed. Mia deserves kindness. She shouldn't feel like this, Stella shouted. A wave of determination swept inside her, pushing her to take this leap. Now there was no turning back. With all the voices against her, she felt exposed and alone. Yet Stella recognized that this moment was more important than any fear. Could change everything, not just for Mia but also for a whole community. With a heart full of hope and tension around her, Stella stood ready to face whatever happened next. Stella stood in front of the group, her heart racing. The air felt thick with tension. She could see the surprise and confusion on their faces. However, it was the laughter behind her that still hurt the most. Suddenly, anger erupted within her, mixed with fear. She had entered a storm and there was no escape now. Why do you all think this is okay? Stella shouted, her voice louder than she had planned. A boy, known for his teasing, crossed his arms and stepped forward. What's your problem, Stella? She can't just stand there and not be made fun of. It is her fault for being different, he sneered. Stella felt as if he had pushed her, and the bitterness spurred an even stronger resolve. No, you don't understand. People are not a joke, she cried, fighting to keep her voice steady. Inside her, doubts bubbled up again. Was she alone on this? Did anyone else care? Would she really get everyone's anger directed at her? But in her heart, a new feeling grew. A passion to protect Mia and show everyone that kindness does matter. Stella took a deep breath and stepped closer to the boy, mustering all her courage. You are making her feel bad for no reason. Making fun of someone will not make you better, she yelled, every word spilling out like water bursting from a dam. There was a moment of silence mixed with shock. It felt as if time stood still. Then gasps of disbelief filled the air as students exchanged glances. Mia is not weird. She is just different, Stella continued, her anger transforming into passion. She has her own interests just like you. Her heart beat in her throat. This was the moment. If she backed down now, they would only go back to laughing and ignoring Mia. Look at how happy she could be if you just let her join in, Stella urged the group, voice firm, conviction flooding her soul. Mia glanced up, confusion and awe in her eyes. Perhaps she could see hope inside Stella's bravery. Suddenly, Stella knew she had to keep going. If you want to be friends, you need to be kind first. You can choose friendship or bullying, and I hope you choose wisely. There was a sense of urgency in her pulse as she spoke. For a brief moment, the crowd seemed to hesitate. Some students shifted their feet, clearly unsure. Then Stella heard snickering again from the back. This is so dumb. She's just trying to be a hero. It won't change anything, one of them sneered. Their words sliced through Stella like ice. It was hard to fight against those who refused to see kindness. The rage built within her, but Stella kept her focus. That is not true. This can change. We can all change, she exclaimed, determined. You don't know how much Mia hides her true self because of you. The world around her started to blur as adrenaline took over. The stakes felt high and every moment counted. Then, to Stella's surprise, one girl from her class stepped forward. Stella's right. We should be better, she said quietly, her voice growing stronger. We can include Mia, can't we? There was a pause. Everyone held their breaths, waiting to see how that would change everything. In that moment, it felt like a line had been crossed, a path forged. The laughter faded, replaced by whispers and a sense of change. Stella could feel the shift. Her courage provided a glimpse of hope, breaking through the tough shell of hatred and teasing. Perhaps in this moment they could start a journey towards kindness, and maybe even accept someone who had felt so alone for too long. That dream united them all in silence, turning a painful moment into the start of a new path. The moments following Stella's outburst felt electric. The shock spread through the crowd like ripples on water. Some students stood frozen, while others began to whisper. Stella's heart raced. She had spoken up, and she could feel the weight of that action, heavy yet freeing at the same time. There was a shift in the air, a taste of change that began to settle in. Mia looked up from her spot, where just a few moments ago she had been hiding her face in her hands. Now uncertainty showed in her eyes, mixed with something more hopeful. Stella caught her gaze and gave a slight nod, encouraging her to feel seen. A few students around Mia, who had teased her just moments before, felt the weight of Stella's words. The laughter faded away slowly, revealing a mix of confusion and guilt in their faces. Maybe we should have invited her to sit with us, one girl finally said, her voice soft but loud enough to disturb the uneasy silence. It's not right to laugh at her, another added, nodding in agreement. Stella felt a thrill of hope rise within her chest. This was the moment she had dreamed of, the start of conversation about kindness. As students began to talk among themselves, a small circle formed around Mia. Others approached her, asking if she wanted to join them for lunch. Stella watched, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. It stung that it had taken this long for anyone to see Mia, but at least now they were trying. Maybe the battle was not over, but today it felt different. Several students started smiling and introducing themselves to Mia, easing her darkest moment. Stella could hardly believe what was happening. She was amazed by how quick people could shift once someone stood up and said, "This is not right." However, a part of her heart was still cautious. She knew not everyone would change overnight. There were still whispers she could hear, the persistence of students who clung to their old ways of thinking, unwilling to let go of their past behavior. One boy nearby chimed in, trying to find a way to regain the group's easy laughter. "But she's still so different," he remarked, casting doubt again. That comment darkened Stella's bright moment for a second, but she quickly reminded herself that progress does not happen all at once. Even small victories deserve recognition. In the days that followed, things began to shift at school. Some students reached out to Mia and included her in activities. They smiled and laughed without the weight of cruelty behind their words. Stella felt proud to see friends and classmates accepting Mia as they dove into deeper connections. Follow-up conversations became more open. Many began to think about their actions differently after Stella's brave stand. There was progress, but some held tightly to old habits. Despite those challenges, Stella felt stronger than before. It was not perfect yet, but she saw light breaking through the darkness. Joyce, one of the girls who had laughed at Mia, became friends with her and even invited her to a group project. Little by little, a new atmosphere grew in the school. Although those barriers could crumble slowly, the seeds of change sparked hope in Stella's heart. While things were not perfect, it started to feel like a new page was being turned. Stella had taken a chance and spoke against the tide of hurt. Now it was time to nurture those new connections. Small victories added up to something beautiful. The real challenge lay ahead, keeping the momentum alive. But for now, she would cherish every moment of this change, one kind action at a time. Days turned into weeks, and the air at school began to shift slowly. Stella could feel the change. Students were more open to talking with Mia. At lunch, there were fewer whispers and laughter at her expense. This new spirit of friendship felt rewarding. However, old habits didn't disappear overnight. Some students still clung tightly to the old ways, making it clear that change was only beginning. In the classroom, a teacher noticed the shift too. Mrs. Thompson started a discussion about kindness and acceptance during their morning meeting. "We should always be aware of how our words affect others," she said. Many students nodded, but a few rolled their eyes. They still believed that teasing was harmless fun. That was a reminder of how deep-rooted the issue was, and how long it might take to truly change minds and hearts. As the school became more aware of its own culture, a ripple effect began. A group of students started a kindness committee to help raise awareness about bullying and support inclusiveness among classmates. Stella felt proud, knowing her moment of courage helped inspire this idea. Meetings began to take place, and they planned small events to celebrate diversity. They wanted everyone to feel welcome and accepted. However, not everyone was excited about these changes. A small group of students expressed their displeasure. They did not want to change. "Why do we need all these rules? It's boring," one boy shouted during a meeting. He wanted everything to return to how it used to be, when teasing was supposed to be funny. Stella felt hurt to hear those words. Resistance still existed. It whispered in the hallways and passed from student to student in secretive exchanges. Despite the pushback, the committee kept moving forward. At lunchtime, new posters brightened the walls in the cafeteria with messages about kindness. The words spoke of empathy and understanding. Stella saw some students laughing at these efforts but also saw others smiling, reading the messages. Even small ripples like that gave her hope. At home, Stella talked to her parents about what happened at school. They had been supportive, reminding her that change takes time. "It's not easy, sweetie. Keep your heart open, but know some do not want to change," her mom said gently. Hearing those words reminded Stella that persistence was necessary. Weeks later, at a school assembly, the principal recognized the kindness committee. He praised their effort to create a positive atmosphere in the school, and the energy in the room felt electric. "We can all make a difference, one act of kindness at a time," he stated. Applause echoed throughout the hall as smiles lit up faces long shaped by negativity. But a few whispers still drifted through the crowd. "This is dumb," someone muttered, causing Stella to turn her head. Though she felt frustrated, she stood firm in her belief that change would come. It was just a matter of time. The truth weighed heavy on her. Sometimes change would face resistance, but Stella was willing to be part of that important journey. Even as challenges remained, she felt proud of her role in sparking that first light. It may have begun small, but it was growing. The seeds of hope were being sown, and change, slow as it might be, had already made an impact on the school community. Stella's heart swelled with determination. Together, they could continue to work toward something better, even when roadblocks arose. She believed in the power of kindness, and that made all the difference. As the school year came to an end, Stella reflected on everything that had happened. The bright days blended into a journey filled with many lessons. In her heart, she felt a mix of joy and hope, but also a clear reminder that challenges still existed. Change had sprouted, but it was not yet fully grown. Stella walked through the halls, noticing how Mia now had friends by her side during lunch. The smiles exchanged made her heart warm. It was a sight she had dreamt about months ago. Students from different groups sat together, talking and laughing without fear. But even while this change was beautiful, Stella recalled the moments when laughter turned sour, the whisper still echoing in her mind. There were still students who tested the edges of kindness, and some dismissed the values shared in kindness meetings. While the atmosphere had improved, it was clear that certain individuals remained indifferent or even resistant to change. This mixed reality weighed on Stella. It was not easy to envision a world where everyone practiced kindness all the time. Looking back, Stella remembered the bravery it took to speak up for Mia. It was a turning point that opened the door to so many possibilities. "I learned that one voice can make a difference," she thought, feeling proud of her actions. There will always be challenges, but speaking up helped. It built a bridge between differences. No student should ever feel alone in a place meant to be supportive. Stella discovered the importance of community. Kindness cannot stand alone. It needs others to nurture it. This belief inspired her to continue her efforts, even when faced with difficulties. She realized that change is a journey, not a single moment. It would take time, patience, and most importantly, more voices willing to speak out against bullying. As she stood in the schoolyard on a sunny afternoon, Stella smiled as she watched groups of students share stories and lunch. Yet, she was still aware of the challenge that loomed ahead. She knew that the journey was not yet complete. One part of her story had ended, but others were still ready to be written. I will always try to stand up for what is right, Stella vowed. New adventures were beginning, new challenges both light and dark awaited just around the corner. She understood that helping others takes strength, and it flows from kindness. With every new day there was a choice to make. Encouraging those unsure if they could break free from old habits would become her next mission. She wanted to be that voice ready to guide others as she had guided Mia. Change, she knew, is often born in small moments. The end of the school year was not a finish line. It was merely the first step in a longer path of kindness. No one was alone in this journey. They all walked together, even if it took time for everyone to learn how to walk in step. That gave Stella hope. Even in uncertainty, she felt a newfound strength to forge ahead. As she looked towards the future, she felt confident with every bit of kindness she could share. The journey would continue and she would be there, every step of the way. As summer approached, Stella could see the changes blossoming all around her. The school year came to a close, but the joy of new friendships formed made it feel much brighter. Mia now participated in different activities, and her laughter filled the hallways. This growth brought much happiness to Stella's heart. All of their hard work had begun to pay off. When she saw Mia joining in with a group during recess, smiles all around, it was like a splash of warm sunlight breaking through clouds. However, not all stories had perfect endings. There were still students who remained distant and indifferent to the efforts of the kindness committee. Stella caught snickers during lunch occasionally. A few hardened hearts were still set against change. This reality was bittersweet. But Stella realized that every little step mattered. Even those rough edges were part of a greater journey. As the school year wrapped up, the kindness committee organized an end-of-year event. They invited everyone to come together for a celebration of diversity, games, and acts of kindness. It was a chance to share their progress and encourage a spirit of unity. The whole school got buzzing with excitement in those final weeks. Stella felt hopeful, believing that every moment spent could contribute to making a more loving environment for all. During the event, Stella watched students joining hands and having fun together. Old rivalries faded away as new friendships began to blossom. Mia was in the center of the games, laughing and enjoying with enthusiasm. The sight sparked memories of the struggle, how voices once silenced were starting to be heard and respected. Stella felt a sense of closure for the challenges she had faced. Standing on stage during the final moments of the event, she looked out at her classmates with gratitude. "This is just the beginning," she declared. The audience erupted with eager applause, and Stella felt empowered. Their journey toward kindness was far from over, but together they chose love instead of hate. Later that night, Stella sat down to think. She reflected on Mia's growth and her own bravery. It was a chance for her to appreciate how far they had come. It also became clear that everyone still had work to do. After all, not everyone had embraced the change she had hoped for. However, she also recognized that every act of kindness mattered, no matter how small. In that moment, Stella's heart was filled with purpose and warmth. She thought about her journey and wondered, what else can I do to help create a world where kindness is the norm? Questions began to swirl in her mind. Could a single voice continue to prompt change? Would others join her? As Stella reflected, she felt dawn breaking on her new mission. She stood and took a deep breath, realizing that every small act could spark even bigger change. What if other students followed her lead? What if every person chose kindness not just in school but everywhere they went? Stella thought about the choices they would face every day. She knew that people could be the change they wished to see. Now, Stella looked forward to what was to come, motivated and ready for the next adventure. The events of the past year had made her strong. She was excited to inspire others and find out just how powerful one voice could be. In her heart, she carried a simple yet profound question that kept urging her forward. Will you join me in making a difference? The thoughts of connection and kindness lit her path ahead, guiding her journey as she embraced the unknown waiting just beyond the horizon.